Hey everyone, Ryan here at etrailer. Today on our 2024 GMC Canyon, we're going to be showing you how to install the Roadmaster towed vehicle battery charge line kit. Before we do that though, let's just check this out and talk about why it's a good idea to use something like this. So with the battery charge line kit, what it's going to do whenever you're hooked up to your motorhome and you're flat towing your truck down the road, it's going to more or less trickle charge or maintain your truck's battery. And this is something I always recommend for any flat tow I set up, not just the Canyon in particular, but all of them, because it's cheap insurance, honestly, at the end of the day. And I say that, because a lot of these late model vehicles, a lot of them have electric assisted components like brakes, steering, so on and so forth. If yours is equipped with that, it's a good idea to have proper battery voltage so they can operate, as they should. But really, one of the big reasons is your supplemental braking system that you use to apply the brakes in your GMC whenever you're flat towing it. That's going to use battery power. So over time, 6, 7, 8 hours over the road, you start to deplete the battery some, and then that can leave you with a dead battery once you get to where you're going. Try to unhook, it's flat, you gotta bother jumping it, it kind of kills the life of the battery. And so by having a charge line kit, trickle charging it as you're going down the road, all those issues you're not gonna have to worry about. It'll be completely charged and operating as it should. How it works is really simple. When you're hooked up to your motorhome, your motorhome will have that 7-way connector in the back. You plug your wiring into it, and 12-volt auxiliary power is there on your 7-way, right? To be able to use something like this, for example. And so that power would come back, and it goes up through a breaker. So if a short or something like that were to occur, the breaker would trip, kill power to it. And then out of the breaker, you have a wire that runs to your positive battery terminal. And that's how it's going to work. So there's really, it's not a complicated system or anything along those lines. I will say though, your battery does have to be in good working condition for this to work properly. It's not going to bring a battery back to life if you got a bad cell or something like that. And a lot of people wonder too if this is going to affect your motorhome's batteries. And the answer is no. And that's because that 12-volt auxiliary power is there to be utilized, right? And your motorhome has its own charging system using the alternator. So when it's going down the road, it's generating extra amperage to charge the batteries in it and has some to spare to send back to our truck. There are a couple other charge line kits available that I know about. One of them is made by Demco, which is this one here. And there's one also made by Brake Buddy. All good kits, they're all going to get the job done and work out just fine. But just to do a quick comparison, since I have the Demco one on hand, compared to the Roadmaster, I've had really good luck with both of them. On this particular truck, the Roadmaster, the amount of wiring that you really have to think how you're going to route it because it's tight. You have just enough. If you happen to have appropriate wire extra laying around the house or whatever, not really a huge deal. But, just by eyeballing the amount that Demco gives you, it looks like you really want to have too many issues. And the Demco one, instead of a breaker, they use a built-in fuse, which I kind of like the thought of a little bit better because, with the breakers, if they trip, after a minute, they'll automatically reset once they cool back down and potentially trip again. And you really want to know nothing's really going on, you know what I mean? But with your standard fuse, once that pops, it kills power until you figure out what's going on with it, put the fuse back in, and you're good to go. At the end of the day, really no reason not to use a charge line kit. You go through the trouble to set up all the other parts on the Canyon, and this is definitely one of the more inexpensive components. So by using it, kind of ensures you're going to have proper battery voltage, and everything will be working properly. Now, as far as the installation goes, really not too bad. You route your wire from your 6-way round style connector at the front of the truck up here, mount your breaker, go right to the battery. So, like I said, pay attention to how you route your wire. You don't want to fall short. And that's really all there is to it. So it shouldn't give you too many issues or take a bunch of your time. If you know, electrical stuff really isn't your thing, you're not too comfortable doing that, I definitely understand it. You can always check out our dealer locator network, and that could get you going in the right direction as far as finding a shop that can handle it for you. But if you think you're up to it, feel free to hang around. We'll go ahead and put it on together now. To begin our installation for our battery charge line kit, we're going to be underneath the hood here and take the bundle of wire that they give you. You'll take one end of it and drop it down where it's going to come out kind of behind our headlight here. And we're doing this at the same time excuse me, that we're doing our base plate. And that's because with the fascia removed, everything's so much easier to get to and see, so on and so forth. But this is just going to get routed along through here and over to here by our diode wiring. And I just gave myself plenty of length to work with here. And the reason we're doing it this way as well is because of our base plate. They give you a really nice bracket to attach your connector to, but that bracket actually gets connected to the fascia. So my thought is we'll have our wires ran, kind of ready to go. We'll get our fascia back on, that bracket will be there to utilize, and then we can actually get everything hooked up here. Here's that bracket I was talking about, and that attaches to our actual fascia, and why we did it the way we did. You know, if your truck's set up the same, make sure to give yourself plenty of length with these wires. That way you can actually get them through here and work with them. But with that said, we can take our housing here, and our neighbor decided to use a metal one. It's made by Pollock. So we'll slide our wires through it. Just kind of leave them like that for the time being here. As far as the charge line wire goes here, what you can do is strip back the insulation a little bit, about like that. Give that wire a good twist. And we'll take our pin assembly here, and depending on what type of connector 6-way you got, yours might look a little bit different, but the concept is going to remain the same. And pretty much all of them are going to be pinned out the same. But with our charge line, we're going to be using the middle terminal. So we'll pull the set screw out almost all the way. Place it into the terminal. Try to make sure too you don't have any, you know, copper wire poking out from the terminal. Try to get it all in the housing. And we'll just tighten that set screw back down. There's the connector plug. Once everything is hooked up, what I'm going to do is take some silicone and apply it to the terminals just to help keep everything sealed up. This will keep it protected against corrosion and things like that. So I'll get a good coat on there. And then slide this into our housing. Push it in place, and with these with this type of connector here, we'll have to put in a little set screw. Get that tightened down. And then we can just secure this to our bracket. Now that we got our connection in the front made and that's all sorted, you can come back up into the engine compartment. So we're on the passenger side, right where our wire, you know, ran up. And I mounted up the included circuit breaker. Pretty straightforward. They give you a couple self-tapping screws, just secure it down. And you can take your wire and cut it the length, and be conscious of how you route the wire and everything, because you have just enough kind of make it work. So we're going to strip this end back. The wire twist. And we're going to crimp on a small terminal. Like so. And that is going to go on the gold colored post. It's labeled battery, so you might be tempted to do this the other way around, but in this case, the coach is going to act as the battery. So I'm just removing the other one since we're right here. Slide the ring terminal in place. Reinstall the nut. And I have a 3/8 socket. You don't have to tighten these up too much. These are really easy to break from the mounting strap here, so just snug it down. And then the leftover wire, which I have it pre-made here. You'll take another small connector end, put that on the silver post, and tighten this down. The other end of the wire that's coming from our silver post, I crimped on the bigger ring terminal and simply just attached it to the positive battery post here on our truck's battery. With everything working, that's really all there is to it. And with that said, that'll finish up our look at and our installation of the Roadmaster towed vehicle battery charge line kit on our 2024 GMC Canyon.